Good friends, it is time once again for hashtag Real Race Talk, the Revved Up Sports Show, as we dive in for another Monday of great racing discussion. And I'll fix that right there. Rodney Rodriguez with all of you guys. I am up north in the northern parts of Texas. Showtime Bobby Chaffee will join here in just a minute as we will get him in and delivering another great program to you guys tonight. We will recap everything that went on. Well, most things, a lot of things that went on in the racing world this weekend. And then, of course, the guest list. I mean, we always like to bring you guys the best guests that we can find, and tonight it is a roll call of Champions Monday. Once again on the program, Logan Boyette, a champion once again as he wins the Faith Chapel Outlaws season championship over at Five Flag Speedway in Pensacola. He's going to join us, and we're going to give you guys the flavor that you like on this show. We're going to give you a buffet as we have an asphalt champion in Logan Boyette, and then coming up after that, we're going to talk to Bo Knows Late Models. Bo Begno does it again, but this time Bo knows championships this time as he wins over at Hunt County. Well, he didn't win at Hunt County, but he wins the American Crate Late Model Series point championship. So we're going to talk to him as well. Your comments, guys, are welcome throughout the show. Feel free to check in on this thing because we're on Race On. We're on Racing America, obviously on the Race On page. And I do want to tell you guys, because like a lot of the stuff that we've posted, what we're really trying to do, and it's not anything that we don't want to be on YouTube. I mean, because YouTube was actually the driving force of this show when we started implementing video and doing all this other happy horse shit, to where YouTube was the one that really made this thing kind of take off. But just with, I mean, because the shit that I sit here and look at with just different things and numbers and so forth, YouTube is just kind of a better avenue. So we're gradually trying to get people over there. So you can go to revvedupsportshow.com, scroll down right past the logo. The show is live right there each and every time. Click that, like it, subscribe, and share it. Or revvedupsportshow.tv, you can do it there as well. That is all of that feed right there. So if you possibly can, get us some YouTube traffic, because we're just Facebook is not the friendliest time to time. So that's really what I'm trying to do is make this a little bit friendlier and easier for you guys, because there's lots of times where we try to do stuff and we get, and that's the thing, we welcome in Bobby, where we go in and we try to check analytics on different things, not to sound like a high school or a college football coach, but you go in and you try to check stuff and it's like, oh, well, you couldn't do this because this was this or whatever the case was. Kind of what Facebook does. It's all about keywords, and that kind of gets by the nuts sometimes, and that's what we're trying to get away from. Bobby, how you doing, dude? I'm taking a breath.
Well, now that I think I have my microphone working and my camera finally working, I'm doing all right. Good thing that the mic fell off the stand before the show started by about 30 seconds or so. Yeah.
It happens.
And then for some reason, the camera decided to stop working when the mic tried to fall. So now I think everything's rocking and rolling now. So it's okay. It's a Monday. We're working on it.
It's one of those things. And by the way, 2 Monday night football games tonight. So anyway, I'll be glancing that way to see what's going on with all of that. And I just realized that I have the wrong shirt on because, but I mean, same concept. I mean, the shirt presented by, or the show presented by On Demand Shirts and of course audio-visual consultations. But this is the other shirt. But hey. ODS. Oh, shit, I don't even know where it is. But anyway, On Demand Shirts, they will take care of all of your needs, not just shirts. And of course, AV Consultations. We'll hear from Tom later in the show talking about with his commercial about all of the great things that he can do. Bobby, I want to jump on with you. Boyette will be on here in just a little bit. He confirmed, thought that we were going to have Jim Chisholm, the winner of the Mod War 100. We can talk about that a little bit later on. But I think he's still on the road, I think is actually his thing. He said he'd like to get back on with us and record a short or something after that. So we'll definitely make that happen. Main thing is for me, because I was at Houston, but I was really give us a Texana report. That's what I want to know about, because now is the time. If you're a TRP fan, if you're a South Texas race fan, that track needs you. That track needs people. How was Saturday night? Besides Charlie Turner, because that in and of itself would have been worth the trip for me if I'd have been able to go.
As overall good night of racing. Could have used a few more cars, but the cars that were there were all very much capable of winning the race.
Mm-hmm.
Had a great time. First off, thanks to our buddy Chris Workman, came down and shared the mic with me all night long. So he brought in an extra set of microphones so we could work, because there was an issue with the dual set that the track had. But Workman was class act like always. Gave us his input on the E-mods and stuff like that. Helped increase the purse with the E-mods. But I thought overall, all the racing was relatively good. There was some excitement there with one of the lights. Apparently the yellow light blew out in turn number 4.
You don't need that anyway, dude.
Yeah. Well, it would have been a little better, but there was an issue with receivers. So
shit.
Kind of a double whammy there. So, but all in all the speed bumps considered, I thought the night went fairly well. Fan count was outstanding. Definitely lots of people getting in their fix in terms of trying to get back to the doors of Texana. So we got one more race coming up a little less than 2 weeks. There on October 5th. All you guys will be there at the race reunion, but we'll be down at Texana knocking out the last race of the season before we find out exactly what's going to happen for 2025.
And, the thing about that was, because I was thinking about that, and I think a lot of folks, I know the race reunion, it's going to, have its own audience right there. And by the way, Jennifer, great job, continuing to get those pictures and so forth loaded up there, because, it's really cool to go back and see all of that. And I'm seeing, guys and ladies that I'd forgotten about and getting to relive all that through that. But, the thing about that weekend of the 4th and the 5th, I think what's going to be tougher, I think on Texana in this case with trying to do all that is that's the Lone Star 600. And that's, you get folks that may be the one race that they're going to be a part of, whether they're competing or going to or whatever, and it being at 105 this year. To me, it's like, I only went last year to Devil's Bowl, but and I totally appreciate and like the new format. But my thing is, man, drop the green flag and let them go, is what I like about that. But I think that may be the tougher thing right there. But the Texana folks are going to show up, and that's the main thing.
Well, there's no Texas football to compete against. Even down there's a lot of Texas football fans, especially now that UT's winning. And so I think that's going to help out a little bit in terms of being able to attract a different crowd. It also depends on what major games will be playing that weekend. Still a couple of weeks to go to know which games are going to be the most important. But with Texas having a bye week, that I think is going to help out a little bit, because we tried to talk a little bit of college football, but nobody really seemed to care down there. So that was a good thing. Yeah, down there, we tried to go over a couple of scores and nobody really cared. We didn't give the update on the Texas game just in case that somebody was recording it, or the fact that somebody thought that ULM had a chance.
You couldn't record that game. It was on ESPN Plus. There was no way to record that. I don't think. I don't think you can go back and replay them. I don't know how that works. To be honest with you,
I think they replay for like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, maybe that's what they do. But that's the thing about it when it all comes down to it, because I hear, and I was talking to someone, it wasn't on this show. I don't remember where that discussion came up, but maybe it was on the show. Was that last week that we talked about where I think the bigger impact of football is more on the Friday stuff. When you get a 2-day show or something.
We were talking with Selby about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's right, with Selby. Yeah, I think that Friday night football is a bigger thing. When it comes to, because the whole thing is, when it comes to, if you're a diehard race fan and you want to get to the racetrack and you really want to watch the game, there's ways to do it now. You can sit there and watch the game and watch the racing at the same time. So I think that's something that's been able to, kind of circumvent some of the not getting people there. But at the same time, I hate leaving this studio, and it's much better to watch it in your own confines. But hopefully that doesn't that 5th that needs to be a really, really big date at Texana, in my opinion.
Well, I think it will be. Because of the fact that you got Talladega that afternoon versus a night race, I thought even though the Cup race had the Bristol night race, I thought the fan count was still really excellent for what they had down there at Texana. So Cord was happy, Monty was happy. There's a lot of us that were really happy and appreciative that the fans came out in droves. Like I said, got to spend the night with Charlie Turner. She was my trophy presenter. So that was first time in 4 years down there I've had a trophy presenter. But yeah, it's I think all in all it turned out fairly well, minus a couple of speed bumps they had. But I know the mics had a few little issues there in the beginning, but I don't know. They sounded okay there for a while, and then I guess I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
It's the curse of the speakers down there at Texana, I think.
That's so funny story. The last time that I was at the race ranch, so I go pulling up in there, and everybody's like, usually when I show up to the South Texas Race Ranch, it's one of those things where everyone's pretty upbeat and everything going on. David, I don't know. I hadn't heard any rumblings about a big race being canceled at RPM, but now that you dropped that bug right there, it will go into our database. Our database being on Bobby and I's notepads, and we'll find that out for you. I haven't heard any rumblings about that, but so I show up at the race ranch, and everybody's kind of head hanging low, and I'm like, what's going on? And it's like, man, the breaker box on the back of the building over here blew out a while ago, and the transformer blew out, and I wondered, because there's always like music and all this stuff going on. There was nothing. And Bobby, we were down to, it was 6:15 or so. The guy's still on the pole. I mean, not like, on the pole, but like in the bucket truck up working on the pole. And they throw the thing, everybody runs back hoping the shit doesn't explode, and the lights came on. It's like, thank goodness. It's like, it's never a dull moment with this stuff. And I don't think people really understand when it can be something as simple as a microphone or whatever, and it's not working. That is some of the worst stress that you can be under if you're doing anything at a racetrack.
Yeah, well, especially in our line of business, if a microphone is messing, a lot of times there is a difference between the audio at the racetrack, the audio that you get to hear, and the audio that gets broadcasted. Those are not always the same levels of what's the word I'm looking. There's not always the same levels, I guess, is the right phrase for it. So where it may sound okay one side, may not sound okay on another side, and the replay ends up having the I guess the overall, that's how you remember it, right? You don't necessarily remember it from there in the grandstands, because if I can hear myself on the speakers, then I'm assuming that everybody can hear me on a replay.
Yeah.
But it looks like sometimes that's not, you and I both learned from experience, that's not always the case when it comes to replays, just due to technology and system limitations and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a challenge. It's amazing that Flow Racing gets as good of announcer feeds as they get with as many tracks as they go to, because they go to some tracks that are not as up to date, if you will, for some of those sprint car shows. And it's amazing that I guess they might bring in their own sound equipment for some of those. So that's we've seen some tracks that they go to, and they are not the most up to date. Talking out of a milk truck press box. So it's a challenge for sure on everybody's, for the track side, the PA side, the video side, all that stuff. It's a challenge for everybody to try to get it right.
And that's the other part where I always go back after a race and I'm looking at Facebook messages, and it's like, okay, you don't sound, I can't hear you on Race On, or this is not happening, or the camera's doing this. And I'm like, man, I have no control over that. It's totally, I mean, I don't know how all of that works, but I think you're definitely right, because some of the productions, like with other events that I've been at, the bigger events, I'm sure they had this at Mod War, where it's like they spared no expense and had everything that you needed. And you can't always do that at a weekly or bi-weekly show. And that's just kind of one of those things where that technology and all of that shit costs money. And that's what it's all about in this sport. Let's jump in right here. We're heading to Pensacola. Obviously, this man not at home. This man's not in the shop. This man's got family things to do tonight, but he has found some time to jump back in with us. It's one of our favorites here on Revved Up. It is our man, Logan Boyette, that I am proud to say once again we get to call champion. How you doing, champ?
Oh, man, I'm doing great. I hope y'all can hear me all right.
Loud and clear, dude. It's like you're in my back pocket. So, Logan, first of all, tell us what you're doing. Tell us what that beautiful scenery is behind you. That ain't no racetrack behind you, brother.
No, it's no racetrack, no race shop. I'm over here in the far corner of the ballpark, away from all the noise. My stepson, my son Sawyer, he's got a game over here in 10U kid pitch here. It's about 7:20, 7:30. So we're up here a little early, make sure we get us a good spot for that. And it's everybody's first games are getting over now, so half the park's leaving out.
All right, so we'll get through this. All right, Bobby, go ahead.
So Logan, we've talked to other guys in the past, like where they, when they have a next generation of kiddos, right? And it's like you're diehard, you've been racing nonstop for years, and you have this just competitive fire that you still want to fire up. But it's like when the kids start playing softball or quarter midgets or whatever the case may be, it's kind of like that fire turns to something else. And it's a different fire that sometimes people have a hard time explaining because it's not your own fire, but you get to watch your kids and your stepkids grow their own set of fire to try to play something new. How has that been adjusting for you? Because, if they're playing softball, sometimes they're not always involved in racing. How's that adjustment been for you? Kind of a change in priorities, if you will.
Yeah, the adjustment hasn't been too bad. We've got such great guys on the team that keep the car going that it makes it to where I don't have to be at the shop every day. I don't put in an eighth of the time that they put in because I'm being dad, and we've got our 4 kids, and they make it easy on me to do that without feeling guilty or having it held over me or anything like that. It's definitely something I couldn't have done a long time ago. It would have been one or the other, and there would have been no way to do both. And it's hard to balance regardless of whether you have a good support system or not, because you're feeling one way whether you're getting to do the other way and vice versa.
Yeah. So Logan, let's talk about this year. I mean, we had you on earlier in the season when things were just getting cranked up. But I mean, for you, because like you're talking about, I mean, life happens, and you did. You stepped away for a little bit and kind of turned things down. Kind of talk about jumping back in and having that team together, and then you go out there and you win an outlaw championship at Five Flags. Any championship you win at Five Flags is truly something remarkable. Talk about how that feels for you right now.
It feels great. I mean, the first race in that brand new car, first race back in a year for me, and we go out and we're able to win that race in convincing fashion, and then put together a season where our worst place was Saturday night, and we finished 3rd, and that's you don't get to say that very often.
Yeah.
So does that add any pressure, dude? Like in terms of like knowing your worst finish was going to be like a 2nd or a 3rd place finish? Does that put any extra pressure on you as a driver? Because I remember times when I was racing and knew points wise I needed to finish like 5th or better to try to get it, and I overthought everything, trying to over-adjust the car, overdrive the car, everything. So does that add extra pressure, or was it you just raced enough to where it's just another race for you and you just control what you can control?
I was saying all I can control is what I can control, but my mind was racing. I had both my AirPods in the other day, just sitting there bobbing around the music, trying to stay out of my head. And it definitely wasn't an easy thing to do, but no, we've definitely added a lot of pressure to ourselves. And I think that's why we gave up some of the ability to win a couple of those races, and the ability to win Saturday, not to mention how strong the competition is, but we put ourselves in, you're in that box like, okay, we can make this big swing right here, but if it doesn't work and we end up finishing 5th, that's the mentality that you had. So the car was good, the car could run top 3, you got to stop right there.
Yeah. And talk about that part. I mean, because the whole thing is, I know like here in Texas with the Outlaws, we were in Houston the other night. I think we had 6, maybe 7, but they were good cars. And the thing about it is with the Outlaws, I mean, there may not be 30 or whatever that you see at dirt tracks, but when you go out in an Outlaw at one of these racetracks, man, you whatever the number of cars is, over 70% of those cars can win that race. Talk about that part, man.
It makes a huge difference when you've got that stiff of a competition. I'm trying to move around here and try to find a better spot.
No, you're good. You're good.
But no, I mean having the competition so tight, you know what you're up against, you know who you're up against, you know who, whenever they come in from out of town, who you're up against, and typically who who's going to be able to do what in all senses from first and beyond, and just trying to make sure that you pay enough attention but not too much attention. Pay attention, I said tension, to yourself. You have to pay enough attention to yourself and what you're doing, and like you said, it goes back to controlling what you can control, and it's a hard thing to do, because it's easy to overthink everything, and it's easy to psych yourself out and put yourself in a bad spot.
No doubt.
So Logan, if you were kind of psyching yourself out for the championship, obviously having that track championship when the Derby time comes around, is that going to be added pressure to maybe have the target on your back even more because you're the track champion going into the Snowball Derby Outlaw race?
The target's on Derek Griffin right now. There's something fierce right now, and we've been fighting a tight race car all year. It always built tight all throughout the runs. Every race except for the very first race, we ended up tight. We got it one time when we were close, sniffing distance of Derek's car one race, and we had the car similar to like it was the other night, but we had no grip. We made the car turn better, but after it would rotate, we had no grip all the way in, middle, off. So it was just skating around, trying to manage what I could manage. But I think it's pressure off of us, because now we can just focus on get this engine freshened up, make sure we've got everything in order, make sure all of our T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and just go find some raw speed, because we've been 2.5, 3 tenths off all year on speed, and we have a really good car longevity wise, but if we make it go faster, we give up the longevity, and we're gonna really take some swings at it to find both where we had in our old car, and that's been a task. But like I say, it's more because we put ourselves in that box to where, okay, we did this, it helped this, we did that, and it helped that. This hurt, this hurt, this hurt. All right, we're going to go back, and we're just going to leave it there.
Yeah. And for Snowball, I mean, you need both. I mean, you got to be quick out of the box, and you need that longevity because you're going to have those long runs. So, but yeah, DG has been really, really good. So for you, I mean, you go out here, you are. Here's the championship. You've worked yourself back into this. 2025, you guys coming back at it with this car. Any changes? You want to step back? I mean, I know that's one of those things to where a lot of folks are like, I don't want to get too far in. I want to step back again. What are your thoughts early on? I know we're a ways off at this point.
We're just going to kind of play it by ear. We're going to, see what the Derby gives us, and see what we can make happen in the Derby, and move on from there. And, hopefully don't have a repeat of the past 2 snowballs. And, we just get to do some maintenance and think of some new look for it. Maybe we can put a new ice cream cone on the front of it for our new ice cream and protein shake sponsor we've got from Island Scoops down here in Pensacola. So, Tom got real excited there. The guy in the dark shirt at the very end there, he was all excited about the ice cream sponsor. So.
They're supposed to get excited for beer. I'm glad that somebody's getting excited over ice cream. So that's a step in the right direction right there.
Absolutely.
You bet.
So Logan, we're gonna try to take a step forward with try to just take an overall step forward now that the season's over with, and next year we're gonna race when we can race and where we can race, and plan on being back in some pro late model competition. We're actually heading to New Smyrna October the 12th. Hey, girls, I'm on a phone call over here, you two. Obs.
Go ahead, Logan. Say, get your ass over here. Get your ass over here.
But it's one of our best friends' kids. they always find their way around. Now they're trying to kill each other on the ball field.
There you go.
No, we're going to New Smyrna October the 12th to get in Jack Dudkowick's Pro late model, the 1X car. Get back in it. I got to fly up there a few weeks ago and test with him for the first time in a few years. So
Awesome.
Looking forward to getting back into that. Unfortunately, I don't think Mark and Billy can go because and Tom can't go. He's got work. And then Mark and Billy, I believe they have some more go-kart races. Cole and Billy. And Mark's going to be able to go with me to Spot. My wife's going to be able to get to go. Dad said he's not being able to go. But I'm looking forward to that too. Looking forward to see how I can shake it up in there.
Absolutely.
Well, that stole my thunder. I was going to ask if you were going to do any more pro late model racing, but dude, I don't know, man. Thanks for coming on. We don't want to keep any more of your time than we have to, especially with the kiddos getting a little excited out there for you. But man, congratulations on the championship, and we look forward to good things coming up in at the Snowball Derby, and lots of good success and good thoughts for you heading into 2025.
Yep, I think we may have lost him right there, Bobby.
Yeah, right at the very end. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he's kind of froze up right there. Could be cell signals and so forth, but I think that there we go. Yeah, we lost him. That's all right. But I mean, I love the story right there with Logan, because in the times that we have talked to him on here, and I mean, you know, full disclosure, like we always talk about on here so many different times, is a lot of the guys that come on here as guests, I mean, they're our friends. I mean, we've known them for a long time. And I mean, the guy is super. I mean, the dude's got a heavy heart. And the thing is, for him, I think that it's really cool that they were able to win this championship, because it has been a battle for him. And I remember vividly, Bobby, last year at the Derby, when I was working pit road there at the Derby. And I ran into him, and there was a race going on. You know, we hugged and broed it out and did all these different things. And I'm like, "How's it going for you, man?" And he's like, "Dude, I hate this." He's like, "I'm sitting here and I hate it. I need to be on the track." You know, so the fact that they were able to get that done, and he's in such a good situation to where he was talking about right there, where he doesn't have to be wrenching on that car all the time. He's got a great team in place. Good to see that happen for him, man. He's just a good guy. He's a good guy down there in Pensacola.
Yeah, it's nice to see good things happen to the good guys. It's not always, doesn't always work out that way, where you see them, you know, with a little string of bad luck, and then the bad luck turns into a bad season, and then they get disenchanted with racing and say, you know what, I'm done. Let me step back, and then they eventually come back. So I think that's the challenge. We've seen it here lately, is that this next generation of kiddos, they're not as in tune to racing as we were as a second generation of kind of fans and racers.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of them, you know, we've seen a lot of the racers, unless they end up finding a way to get those kiddos and quarter midgets, man, they're spending Saturday mornings over at soccer practice and soccer games, and don't have enough time, you know, like we say, you know, I thought I was telling somebody this weekend down at Texas, I said, I'd love to get another race car. I'd love to, but it's just too much damn work. Then I got to find somewhere to keep it. And I got to find somebody else to help me work on it, because I can't work on it by myself. And some of my friends have kids that then they can't break away. Like, we can't break away to go drink beer on a weeknight, much less, you know, try to find time to work on a race car on a weeknight. So it's, you know, it's a challenge. It takes a lot of work. So you have to have a support system all around you. You got to have the support system at the racetrack, and you got to have the support system at the house to make sure because, you know, you need both. Especially when you got kids involved and stuff like that, to make sure all your bases are covered over there. So it's, I'm telling you, man, it's a challenge, and kudos to the guys and gals that can make it happen.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, I mean, these days is, if you're going to race, and it doesn't really matter what division you're in. I mean, and that's where racing has changed so much. I mean, I don't care if you're whatever they're going to call an entry level division on asphalt or dirt. I mean, these things. I mean, in the past, it was one of those things where you could maybe get by without some of the maintenance stuff. I'm not talking about, okay, the car needs to be faster. I want to go in and change setups and do all these different things. I'm talking about setup. I mean, I'm talking about maintenance, because that's the things when we say bolt check. And I think people don't really realize, I mean, when you're talking about bolt check on a race car, there are so many bolts on a race car or truck that you have to go in there. And if you're going to go in there and manually check each and every one of those things, that's a lot of time that goes in right there. And you need to be doing that, because the thing is, I remember when I first started racing, one of the first things, what you know, the stuff that you can't think about. One of the first things that I would always think about is, okay, I'm about to drive this car into the corner, and I'm going to turn left, and it wants to go right because these cars, those cars didn't handle. I'm like, what if something in that suspension breaks? What if a ball joint? What if a upper control arm falls off? What if a tire? What if one lug isn't snug enough? That's the stuff that you have to do before you get there. I mean, it's a lot of these guys when they get there and they want to be doing all this maintenance at the track, and I'm like, hell, you're way behind at this point, because you should have done that shit at the shop. And the thing is now to be doing to be competitive, and competitive levels differ from everybody else. You know, to one guy, top 5 is great, top 10 is great. To others, it's win or nothing else. To be able to put yourself in that spot, you have got to do the stuff before you ever think about going to the racetrack. And I think that that's where a lot of folks struggle, because it's like they get there and they're behind the 8 ball, and hell, they're never going to be able to compete at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I got lucky, 15 years ago racing the high 5 because I kept it at the track. Got there a little early, worked on it in practice and stuff like that. Hell, you can't do that now. Not whether it's an entry level hobby stock or eco stock or whatever the case would be. I mean, they'd be smoking my ass if I tried to do that. Just leave the car at the racetrack and show up and maybe change the oil on a Thursday night and go do some mini maintenance and, do some torquing of the wheels and stuff like that. So the way I used to do it, can't do it no more. That's why I say it's just too much damn work to have a race car nowadays. So it's there's a lot to it. It's not just as simple as it's kind of like a promoter aspect. Well, we always talked about the plight of the promoter. It's not quite as simple as just coming in, flipping on the lights and grilling up some hot dogs and hamburgers. There's a hell of a lot that goes on into it. Same thing with racers. We don't want to forget that it takes a lot. It doesn't matter what class it is. It takes a lot to get these cars on the racetrack, not just money, but time. Lots and lots of time to get these things ready all week if you want to be competitive, like we were just talking about.
And so much of that is, when you start breaking down the economics of all of this, it's like, the time that you spend and invest working on the race car. It's like, okay, and this is where you get back to just folks that love doing this, and whether they're new or have done it for so long. It's like you're going to invest all this time and money in there, and you're not good. It's not going to be reciprocated when you go out. I mean, you go out and win the feature race, unless you win a big factory stock thing. I mean, that's why I wanted to talk to Jim Chisholm. I mean, $50,000. I mean, that's an amazing payday. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And I heard it promoted as the biggest payday in Texas ever, which I think is true. But I mean, the whole thing about it is that's a lot of money to win. But once you do everything, I mean, once you get the red thing out and start subtracting, I mean, what do you actually get? And that's where it comes back to the love of this, and why these guys and ladies continue to constantly do this, because you're not going to make money, and you have to spend a lot of time working on these things.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, especially when you get to big races. I mean, it's kind of like, we'll discuss our thoughts on the end of Mod Wars. You were watching it in Houston, I was watching it in Texana. But yeah, it's it just becomes an issue of time and money, especially on those big cars like that, on them big shows. They were double checking, triple checking every nut and bolt on that before they left the shop. And then when they got down there, all the changes you got to make to keep up with the track with that many cars. I mean, they were, that was hot and heavy up there. So it's it only the maintenance and stuff only gets worse and more challenging the higher up the food chain you go when it comes to race cars.
No doubt about it. Bo Begno coming up here in about 4 minutes. We will bring the American Crate Late Model Series champion in as he nails that down. Nail biter with everything that went down there. He'll walk us through that. Our man Mike checking in about the, and I think this goes back to the conversation about the track stuff and so forth with PA systems and so forth. I don't know what the MRP, what the My Race Pass audio feature is. I mean, I think that's something to where I know that, but this is where, because what happens here, to what Bobby was talking about earlier, is that you can have, and this is where there are so many different pieces to this, because you can sound really loud and clear and just be booming on the track PA system. But the whole thing is, depending on how the stream is set up, you're going to sound like you sound bad. I mean, you can be over modulating, you can be low. I mean, there's a lot of different factors that go in right there. It's not a matter of like for this show, for example. I mean, there's a mixer sitting over here. Everything's wired in and it's all boom. But we have one interface right here that controls all that. The mixer essentially only amplifies what we're doing. Boy, this is getting way technical. So I'm going down a rabbit hole right here. The mixer is only amplifying everything that we're doing. When you go to the racetrack, it's one of those things to where the more people that are plugging into that mixer, like we have here, it can distort, it can minimize, and I think that's what happens with the streaming stuff, to where it's like, okay, I sound great on the stream, but I sound like shit at the track, or vice versa. And I think that's where people get frustrated, to where you sound horrible on the stream. I'm like you said, Bobby, but at the track, I sound great. I sound like, Bill Withers. So it's complicated when it comes to that kind of stuff.
It is, and it's not just relegated to just one streamer.
No.
They all, all of them have the same. We face some of the same issues that some of the streamers do. Do we have enough bandwidth? Do we have the sound right? Every broadcast kind of faces the same thing, regardless of which service provider you're watching it from. So those are all things that, everybody can play. Well, this one's out or this one's out. It happens to all of them. It's just the nature of the beast. My internet goes out, at home sometimes. So, it's just, everybody, a carrier dispute between, major media companies and cable companies and stuff like that, cable and satellite providers. Everybody's like, oh, I'm going to switch. It never happens with there. Carrier disputes happen everywhere. It's the same thing. You see it over and over. It's no different than the conversation we have all the time where we talk about racers will say, I'm never coming back here because XYZ happened to me and it won't happen anywhere else. Yes, it will. It's called racing, and racing shit happens.
Yeah. For that situation right there, for the sounds great in the stands or bad in the stream or vice versa, there's really only one way to do that. And the whole way to do it is, the track does kind of like a setup that we have right here. And the streamer does kind of like a setup that we have right here, where they're dedicated to one another. I mean, it's like streamer XYZ has their own, they're mixing all of their sound. They're pulling all of that sound, and they have whatever else that they're doing. They do all that. The racetrack thing is just kind of running through the PA feed and doing its own thing. But you know what that is? That's probably 1, 2, 3 more people.
Easily,
what's involved right here. I don't know other people that do this, Bobby, but you and I make millions of dollars doing this. So for people to be able to afford that, I mean, it's hard.
I mean, nobody comes to a local track and have the setup that World of Outlaws has. I mean, we've seen behind the scenes what Johnny Gibson's working with, and it's a hell of a setup he's got. But he's got 4 or 5 people in there working with him.
Right.
So I mean, it takes a small army to get some of this stuff to work. So
it does. I mean, that's where, when it comes to the advancement of streaming, as much as it has, when it comes to a lot of these, regular shows, it's the technology that we had when we started. And that's why you have some of those discrepancies. There's your streaming 101 for today. So hopefully you all understand some of that. We can get back into that a little bit later on. Monday Night Champions. We talked to Logan Boyette earlier, winning the Outlaw Championship at Five Flags Speedway. Let's jump over to the dirt side, because we got every flavor around here. Another great friend of the show, notching a championship. It is our man, Bo Begno. Bo knows late models. Bo knows championships. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. How are things up your way, my friend?
Man, everything's great. We had a pretty successful weekend, and still excited about it. So,
love it.
So Bo, talk about the chase of a championship as your year progresses. Is it one of those to where, like, in your mind, if you win early, did you have the championship in mind when you started? And then number two, is it something that you got a better taste of if you got a couple of wins earlier in the season and saw your name kind of there towards the top of the sheet? Talk about how that year progressed for you. You know, obviously a championship probably meets expectations, but did it exceed the expectations that you set for yourself at the beginning of the year?
Well, we went into the season, we really didn't plan on running for points for either of the series, the Gulf South or the American Crate Late Model Series, but everyone knows how that goes. We had a string of good finishes to start the year, and it progressed throughout the whole season. And we picked one of the series, and we stuck with it and made all the nights. And we were very lucky throughout the year. You know, we were very consistent every night. We made sure the car was good, and we're able to make every night. So it got really, really close at the end. So
yeah. Bo, talk about that part, because it's always been one of those things where I like to ask guys, when you're running for a championship, you do want to kind of have a little bit of that conservative part, because it's like, okay, I'm looking at the bigger picture. But I know in my career, what I always found is when I got a little more conservative, a little more apprehensive, that seemed to be when I got in trouble. Kind of talk about that part, because sometimes erring on the side of caution can bite you right in the ass.
Right. So going into the last probably 5 races or so, we realized we had a pretty solid shot at getting the championship against a couple other cars, and you kind of take a different mindset going into these races. You one, you got to make sure you finish all of them, and two, you got to make sure you finish up front. So it's really hard to make sure you do both of those things in the same night.
Yeah.
That's definitely a challenge for sure. So we were talking to Logan for a little bit about just the overall extra prep that you got to do, right? In terms of trying to nut and bolt these cars and all of that. And it becomes a challenge. Talk about some of the prep work that you have. Some of these people, like we were just telling Logan, and we were just telling him, it's like a promoter, not as easy to you don't just show up and flip on the lights and the track is ready to go. It's the same thing with a race car. Just because you roll it off the trailer, you got to make a few fine-tuned adjustments for the racetrack. You guys work on that thing all week, don't you?
Right. I mean, I'll start Sunday after the races. You get washed up, and it's every night of the week after that. And in our case, we've got to be loaded up Thursday night normally, because for a 2-day show, we leave on Friday when I get out of work. So most races are probably 3 to 4 hours away from us. So it's definitely a packed week whenever we're racing every single weekend, and you got to make sure you pay attention to detail, every single thing on the car, and it all adds up.
Yeah. And talk about that part, Bo, because it's one of those things where I know that, like you said, nothing is like right in your backyard, but it does seem like you guys, I mean, it's always I mean, every weekend, it seems like I saw last week that maybe you were off last weekend, but you guys are constantly on the road and just chasing this thing.
Right. We raced the past 4 weekends in a row. So that was really tough to end off the season. Wow. And I think the closest one was 3.5, 4 hours.
Man.
So it gets tough for sure. I mean, our closest track is 105. We only got to race there once this year. So
yeah,
our racing was really based around the Dallas area this year. We ventured over to Louisiana a little bit, and just nothing's close to us.
And so what does that add to I mean, that adds an extra expense and an extra layer to the program. But that drive, I mean, it's got to be, is it one of those to where you're constantly thinking about the car and overthinking what you want to do? Or did you just put your earbuds in and just kind of rock and roll down the track? I mean, what's a 4-hour ride to the racetrack end up being like when you're, up towards the front of a championship battle? Like, I mean, talk about those, you've got those miles and miles of Texas to get around. What's it like going from the home base to the racetracks?
Right. I got to give all credit to my dad there. He gets us up and down the road. He takes care of all the driving, getting us there, getting us there on time. And it really allows me to focus on working on the car, setup, and doing my part as the driver and the crew chief sometimes.
Yeah. Yes, I bet. So
me and my parents, and my girlfriend. So we're a small team.
Yeah, hey man, that makes it even sweeter. So let's talk about the weekend. I mean, you came in and you're thinking that you're in a good spot to win the championship, but I mean, it's never easy. I mean, it seems like when you get into one of these championship races, you come down to the final event like that, points paying race, and it's never as easy as it should be. As it should be. Walk us through that weekend for you.
Right. So it all started really last weekend at Arklatex. The top three, we were all within 3 points of each other, and we had a really good night at Arklatex, and we were able to get third, and they were throughout the top 10. So we went into the last race with a 5-point lead over Mr. Corey Davis and Mr. Denny Guyber. Nice. And I knew it was going to be tough because Mr. Denny, he really turned it up the last few races of the year, and I knew he was going to be one of the ones to beat, and I was right. He's really good this whole weekend, and I just knew I had to stay within striking distance of him to get the job done. And start of the feature, I started 6th, so I was stuck. I had to get 4th if he won it, and I was just stuck in 6th, and I was like, man, I don't know if I could do this. And we ran 30 laps, so I knew my car was going to get better before the end of the race. So we had to restart with about 10 to go, and I was able to pick off a couple cars and get within striking distance of them and get the job done for the points championship.
That's awesome, man.
It's crazy how the mindset changes. To talk about the late model class as a whole, obviously up front or up north, I mean, they have considerably more car count than what we're able to get down here, except for a couple of times they run the big shows at I-37. The difference in competition, I mean, I guess, was there a lot of guys from that southern base region going up north, or were you one of the lone rangers that was trying to end up racing that, or did everybody else kind of go Gulf regional racing?
Right. So we had a tough decision to make between, because we're just as far from the Louisiana tracks as we are the Dallas tracks. So we're kind of in the middle point, but we decided to go with the northern region and race with Mr. Donnie Ship and Dustin Daniel. They put up a really good points fund this year, and they made it well worth it. Their payouts were solid all year, and we tried to hit as many races as we can, the ones that didn't overlap. So try to support both series as much as we can, because I know that's important to keep them alive. Mm-hmm. But car count was stout all year. I don't think we had less than 14 cars or so with his, maybe even 16. And when we would go in the middle ground of Louisiana and Dallas, man, there were a couple of nights we had close to 30 cars or more.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely growing, and they're doing a good job with it. The payouts are great, and that reflects the car count.
And that's the thing, for me, when it comes to the late models, I'm like, man, that's the one that I want to blow up, because like with modifieds and limited modifieds and all that, yeah, there's 5,000 of each class. When it comes to late models, you've got the late models, and that's the one that I want to really blow up. So, Bo, I do want to ask you back to the question there about when you go into a battle like that for a points championship, and you're that tight with those guys. How hard is it for you? Because when you're on the racetrack and how far ahead are you looking, or whatever, are you looking for those guys? When you're racing, it's like, okay, I'm looking over here to the left. There's so-and-so. Man, because that right there, that's some of that mental taxing that we talk about that can kind of mess you up a little bit right there if you get too focused in and honed in on some of that stuff.
Oh, yeah. It easily makes you overthink anything and everything. I'm over there making adjustments that I haven't made all year, and I'm like, why am I even doing this? But it was tough. It's a big mental game, and once I strapped in the car and locked in and staging, I knew I had the car to beat all year. So I was able to stick with it, get my mind clear, and carry on with the trying to win the championship.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I don't know how much you could see, Bo, of the extra little comments that are popping up on the side. Logan Dinsmore wants to know if you'll get a mod ride for the big Texas Showdown. What's your prospects for that?
Maybe Sundowners performance might step up and put me in a ride then.
That's what I'm talking about. That is what I'm talking about. So for you, I mean, you get this done. The balance of the year, what's left for you in 2025? I hope you are going to continue with the late models. I mean, because it's one of those things. When I think of late models around here, you're. When I say Bo knows, and I say that a lot, it's like because you're one of the benchmark guys that I think really pushes this and helps the series and class grow across the different places. What's on tap at this point?
So we're gonna take a little break for sure. The past month has been pretty hard on us, but so we're for sure gonna hit Corpus up for the South Texas Shootout,
Nice.
and then the second weekend of December we plan to go race for $100,000 at Golden Owl Speedway.
God, you thought that point. You thought that points thing was stressful. Jeez.
That's gonna be a different kind of stress.
Oh man, that's crazy.
It's crazy that we're able to race for that kind of money.
Well, what's the first thing you do if you won $100,000, dude? Like, would you do like the Scrooge McDuck? And well, you're probably not old enough to know who Scrooge McDuck is, but throw the money on the bed and start trying to swim in it a little bit. I mean, what would you do with $100,000?
Pay your tire bill.
Yeah, that's right. First thing, I'll pay the bill off to get there, and then, man, I just want to make the show. That would be our goal, is to make the show. That would be an accomplishment in itself.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Bo, talk about all the folks. I mean, you have great support. I mean, there's so many people that support you. Talk about that because I mean, winning a championship, like you were just talking about, I mean, it takes so much, a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money. Talk about everyone that made this possible to call you champion.
Man, it all starts with my parents. My parents are amazing. They give me everything I need. They support me, and my girlfriend, I think On Demand Shirts, man, they hooked us up with some shirts this year, and hopefully we'll have something a little new for next year in the works. I'd like to thank Sandy Weld Inc., Mr. Scooter Manchester and his family. Man, they've stuck with me for the past probably since I've started racing, and they've been awesome to us. All-in-One Plumbing, DLS Motorsports, Mr. Nathan England and his family, they follow us around, help when they can. They're awesome. Mr. Chad Fitzgerald with Truck Superstore, man, he's got an awesome business, and he's a fellow racer as well, and he helps us out when he can. Trackside Motorsports, the Lovell family, they get us hooked up with our parts, our tires, and anything we need. And just Mr. Chad Comer as well. He's been awesome to us.
It's awesome.
Well, it takes an army, and congrats, man. It's like every time you come on the show, it's like you progressed another level, right? Like first you were coming into late models and winning some races. Then we had you on at the beginning of the season, and you just won a couple of races at Texana, and you were like, I don't know what we're going to do. We're just going to go race. And now at the end of the season, here you are popping on the show as a champion. So it's nice to see you come on the show multiple times and have success throughout the year.
Man, I appreciate y'all having me on here. I always enjoy when y'all invite me on the show.
Bo, I keep waiting every time that I reach out. I keep waiting for, man, I ain't got time for you. I keep waiting, and I thought it may be this one, but you, boom, there you are. So really proud, man. It's really good to see that, and I'm sure that we're going to see you down the road, and just keep. Congratulations, champ. That's what it's all about.
Man, I appreciate it. It's been an amazing year. Man, it's just been awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Way to go, dude, and thanks for jumping on tonight.
Thank you, guys.
You bet. Take care. There he goes. Bo knows late models. Bo knows championships. You know what's so cool about him? There's lots of things that are cool about him, but did you notice there, and he's done this in the past when we've had him on here, Bobby, every time he talks about whether it be sponsors, whether it be whatever, it's Mr. Whoever, Mr. Whatever, Mrs. Whatever. Need more of that.
Every time.
Need more of that.
But it didn't sound like a robot. That's the best thing, is it was sincere, and he was thinking about each one of them, and he knew all of them. That was the best one out there. So Yeah, no, that's pretty good. Even sometimes we kind of forget our own sponsors, but we're older than he is. He's got that young mind with the big potential, though. We've only been I don't know if we've reached our ceiling or not after 8 years. Who knows?
We're new at this. We're very new at this. So we're catching on, though. We are catching on. And eventually we'll figure it out. No doubt about that. Speaking of sponsors, my studio here is outfitted by my man right here in Round Rock, Tom McKay, Audio Visual Consultations. Here's a word from Tom about how he can do this for you.
Hi, this is Tom McKay with Audiovisual Consultations. Today's home electronics can be a bit daunting. My company has spent the last 36 years making sure they are not. For those of you who have not experienced our services yet, we'd like to invite you to give us a try for all your home electronics needs. We carry all the major brands of televisions and stereo equipment at prices you can't find in stores. And we come to you. There's no need to leave your home to find great pricing and incomparable service. No traffic, inexperienced sales geeks, or pushy showroom tactics. We believe in having some fun and dreaming big. You have a dream for your home entertainment? Let us know. We can make it come true. And we are always there to help after the job is done. We cultivate clients for a lifetime by treating everyone like their family. No, not those family members. I'm talking about the ones you actually like. So relax, hug your kids, make love to your wife, and smile. Then, when you have a moment, give us a call at 255-8678. That's 512-255-8678. Or online at avconsultations.com.
Yes, indeed. 512-255-8678, avconsultations.com. Our man, Tom McKay, also one of our great partners here with Revved Up. Man, we got a big one coming up this weekend at Cotton Bowl Speedway, Bobby. There it is right there, the season finale. You got Stims. You got the South Texas IMCA Modified Series. But you've got really amazing point races happening there at CBS, and they're going to be jam-packed with cars. I mean, there's no doubt about that, especially on a weekend that falls in really well for them. This is going to be a really big night coming up at CBS.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun for that night. I'm actually tentatively set to be there. I don't know how many people I will be bringing with me, but I'm tentatively set to be there for that night. So looking forward to seeing everybody again. The Sim series is coming down. Looks like they've got a pretty tight battle. I think our buddy Logan and Chris Morris are tied going into that race. So that'll be one hell of a shootout with the modifieds. I always love seeing the big mods run around the high banks at Cotton Bowl Speedway. As long as they don't get any more controversy and just have a good solid race on that big old track, they'll be all right. So that's the goal I have for Stims is, let's not have any controversy this race. Let's just have one hell of a good race and put on a good show for those fans at Cotton Bowl Speedway and those watching on the streaming service.
And I think the thing about that is with that, I mean, with Chris and with Dinsmore, I mean, you got a couple of dudes right there that they're going to be as clean as possible. I mean, things are going to happen on the track, and like you said, I think the underlying factor right here is that you're at this big place. I mean, it would be one thing where folks may say, well, if they were at a bull ring, whatever, but I think just in the sense that, and this is the On Demand Shirts final, the point series. There are races after this for Stims, but this is for that point fund. And I think having those two dudes right there, and then the guy that's sitting right behind him, I think he's 4 or 5 points back, is Ryan Doyon. So you've got him sitting there as well. You've got some really good guys right there that are going to race each other as clean as possible. What I would like to see in this race with Stims is if you get to the end and you have 5 laps to go, whatever, and you have those guys racing together, because I think that these guys would race it out. And I mean, Rick Green is there within eye shot. I think he's a little too far back, but I think that this is going to be a lot of fun for Stims to finish off that on-demand points race there at CBS.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be an outstanding race. The races there before have been good, and I think H will have that track ready for the mods, and we're going to have a lot of extra car count. It should be a great night. I know our buddy Milton Hope will be fired up on the vocal cords trying to get everything done, because they realistically only have only got 3 more shots to watch racing there at Cotton Bowl. You got this season finale race here, and then you got Oktoberfest there in a couple of weeks. So it's if you've never been, get in the car, head on up to Page, Texas, if you've never been. And then if you've been before and haven't been in a while, get in the car, head back up to Page, Texas, and go watch some pretty damn good, entertaining racing.
That's right. Saturday night, September 28th. And the whole thing is, you're going to go there and you're going to be entertained. Where you get, a lot of tracks, they have a different feel, a different vibe and everything. But Cotton Bowl has always been and will always be, as long as Marianne and H are in control there. It's going to be a very family-friendly event. There's always things that are going on right there. And oh, by the way, then you're going to get the local classes out there, as we say. The classes that run there all the time. And as we've mentioned so many times, Bobby, Cotton Bowl has a problem that tracks around the state, around the country wish that they could have, is that they have so many damn cars in their regular local classes. And I guarantee you that's going to be a jam-packed pit once again when it comes for them to settle all this stuff.
Oh yeah. I have no doubt that pits will be full and it'll be pretty interesting racing throughout, and it's just gonna be a hot damn good show. I'm looking forward to it. That's why it's gonna be a challenging day for me to get there. Because that's my mom's birthday, so I get to try to spend some time with my mom. But at the same time, she knows how much I like racing, and maybe she'll let me kind of peel out a little bit early from birthday celebrations and stuff to head on up to Cotton Bowl. So we'll see how that all shakes out. I may not get there right on time, but I'll definitely try to be there for sure.
Parent weekend for me in Stephenville for the Tarleton State Texans, as they will be in action there. So I'll be enjoying a little college football for me coming up on Saturday night. Looking forward to all of that day that I'll be doing. So no racetrack stuff for me this weekend. And of course, this one, got to talk about this as well over at South Texas Race Ranch. Kind of a double right here coming up on September 28th, which is Saturday. You'll have a championship night there for the great South Texas Race Ranch group. As I said, I won't be able to make that one, but it's not anything that's going to discount, because you've got really good point races right there that they're going to stack it up. And then coming up on December 14th, that is the night of the Outlaw 34, which you've got the South Texas Shootout in November that Bo was talking about. But on the 14th, you've got that rescheduled Dwarf Car Racing Series of Texas Powder Puff race. I was actually talking to Dwayne Groff a couple of weeks ago there at the race ranch, and he's like, man, we got some ladies that are obviously Rachel is fired up and ready to go, but he's like, man, we got some ladies. He's like, this is going to be an event, and doing it in December, I think that's a really good draw for them.
I think so. It's kind of like the mechanics races right there towards the end of the season. You always like to see the mechanics and the crew chief races get their chance to shine. So same thing with the ladies of the DCRST getting a chance to shine behind the wheel. Maybe they'll show up some of the guys and be like, look, this is how it's done, dude, and go out and lay down some good laps and put on a hell of a show.
Dwayne was telling me about some of the ladies there that have run different, practiced or whatever, and given me lap times. I'm like, shoot, I couldn't do that. Not that I'm, Jeff Gordon or anything, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And I think that them doing it that weekend with the Outlaw 34, like I mentioned, is going to be pretty good. Hey, look who checks in right there. Marianne Nauman says, H working on the track right now. That dude never stops. What is today? Monday? We're already at it. And a little bit of rain here in Round Rock where I'm at today. So I think there's supposed to be rain in the area for about 3 days this week. So it's definitely going to be a little bit of a challenge there, but H is going to have that place shining.
He'll have it ready to roll.
Yeah. I got to tell you one thing that I've really liked as I've been going to Houston here the last few times is that when I pass by, when I haul ass right by Cotton Bowl, I look up and there's like some vines on the fence. Kind of has that look like a Wrigley feel in turns 3 and 4. It's like, man, now that's a nice look right there. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but that looks really good from the highway.
So I think what sets apart is the sign, is the digital sign from the highway. That always looks pretty good too.
And then you look over and it's like, that thing's jumping out at you. When I was coming back and driving up this weekend, it's like September 28th, it's like, okay, there you go. Waco does that really well. So those things work.
Yeah, it's funny about Waco. One of my buddies popped up and said, he sent me a text. He says, dude, what the hell's going on at that little bitty racetrack just north of Waco? He says, there's some high dollar rigs. And this was on like Thursday. I was like, dude, just get ready. I was like, it'll be better tomorrow and be totally out of sight on Saturday. Sure enough, he sent me a video on Friday. It said, he says, you're right. He says, there's like $1 million rigs parked out here right now today. I said, just get ready. It'll get better. I said, it pays $50,000 to win, and they pre-registrations from all over the country. He says, wow. He says, why aren't you going to be there? I said, well, I'm going to be at my home track at Texana helping out and trying to make the best of that show. So we got a chance. Everybody was tuned in to Mod Wars. It was a popular point of discussion it was popular point of discussion where I was at, because we were watching it after our races were over, and then it was a point of discussion where you were at because you text me as soon as it was over. So yeah, it was the talk of the town pretty much. For a lot of the, at least definitely for this region for sure, but it had a lot of eyeballs on it, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Brandy, thank you. I really enjoyed chatting there with Caden. That was really cool. She came up at the right time. She came up at intermission when I had a little bit of a buffer right there. So yeah, it was kind of cool to just shoot the shit there, or chew the fat, I guess I will say. She's a youngster. Really cool there. Our man Doug Rollo checking in, who was on with us a few months back over in Denton. Thank you so much, Doug. Always a pleasure to know that you're checking in on what we're doing right here. So let's talk about the Mod War. Mod Wars, whatever. I mean, it seemed like every night that there was some really good stuff going on. And obviously, I get messages from a lot of people, and it's like, well, there was supposed to be 180 and only 100 showed up. I'm like, only? That it seemed like every race that I saw, and I didn't consume all of it, but everything that I saw, you had good, clean, close racing. And I think that's what happens when you have a big event like this. That it's going to bring in the big money guys, but this is where you go back to when you have an event like this, it's going to bring in the drivers, and they're going to have that respect, and they're going to get out there and race. I'll tell you what, Heart of Texas Speedway looked amazing. To see these guys out there doing the shit that they were doing, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's it. That's in my Waco track. That's right down the road. That was unbelievable to see.
Yeah, I think that we've talked about it before. When you get the more professional style drivers, right? That's their day job, and they get it. They don't, when it's their day job, you notice they don't usually try to tear up a lot of stuff. And they race respectful, because those are the guys you got to race every week. You don't need any controversy. You don't need anything like that. You had like the Rodney Sanders of the world, and the Jason Hughes of the world, and different drivers that, came from, that's their gigs. Like, that's what they do. Right. So I think that added an extra level of, for lack of a better term, professional. Professionalism. To it. Sometimes when I talk too fast, it's not conducive to making sense. So,
word of the day.
There it is. So it's it's nice to see it. There wasn't a lot of controversy from what I gathered, just by being able to catch what I got to catch. So, but it's it was there. It was one hell of a finish. You talk about wide open all the way around. That's got to be rough to lose it like that, though. Just a tick to the high side. Definitely got to be just one of those just kick yourself in the ass kind of moments, kind of deal.
Mm-hmm. I think somebody caught up with Bo there. We kind of pulled that up right there as he was talking. I should have asked him who that is, but hey, there you go. He acknowledges, so he's still watching. So I think the other part of that really is, Bobby, is that when you get to an event like this, is that you have so many of these guys that are pulling from around the country, and it's a situation to where you get out there, and like we always say, I like to preface things before they happen on the track, to where it's like things are going to happen. Shit's going to happen, but I think that we're with these guys that do this for a living, like you're talking about, and they chase the money and they go out and do these things, that they do have that you're not going to go out there and you're not going to do something that maybe you would do at a weekly track, or it's like, I want this win so bad, a heat race, and go out there and dismantle somebody when you probably don't need to do that. That respect level is so great. And I think one of the things that you can really take from that is looking at some of the interviews with Race On. Great job, Race On, with everything that you guys did on that. I mean, that was now when you look at now here's my point to what we were talking about earlier. When you have a race like that and you pile in all those resources for the capacity of what you're about to do with that event, that's the way it turns out. But when it comes to weekly tracks, you can't do that all the time. Great job by them. But you really see these drivers, the respect factor is there. Yeah, they want to beat each other so bad, but you do. I mean, when you really want to lean on somebody at a weekly show, you don't do that in a B main or a main on Friday or whatever the case is. And that's just the way that works when it comes to that level of racing that we saw in Waco this past weekend.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, that's the way that it is. A lot of young racers. There was a lot of junior limiteds there. They could learn a lot by the way that race was handled by those veterans and the way that they raced. So I think that was a hell of a turnout in its own right. For some of the junior limited classes. Was it Colton Birmingham ended up winning that night. So we've seen him, hell, we knew his parents before he was even born. So crazy to think that next generation is not only racing, but winning big races like that.
Yeah. That I think I've said it here before, that's when that age really creeps up on you, where it was like, all the time there at Kyle or wherever, he'd come up and, hey, sign this program or hero card, whatever. And it's like, I don't know how many autographs of me that Colton Birmingham may have gotten, but it was really cool a couple of years ago to get to go down to a meet and greet there at Waco, and there he is signing his stuff. And I'm like, you sign this for me. I mean, that's again, that's what the sport's all about, is growing them like that and seeing these young dudes. I mean, like Bo. I mean, Bo is a young dude that's worked his way up, and here he is, a late model champion. I mean, Logan Boyette. I mean, look at that guy. I mean, you and I are old enough to remember when he first started. It's like, damn. You go back and you look at these things, and it's like that's what it's all about right there. But a great show out there, it seemed like, at Heart of Texas Speedway. And again, for Heart of Texas Speedway and everybody involved right there, good job. I mean, that's how you make this thing continue to grow.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's what you have to do. Took a big chance on a big show with a huge purse, and I think that basically, I mean, I think that it, obviously we don't know how it turned out financially for the racetrack, but I think the overall show, I think you could call the show a success from an outsider's perspective. Obviously, we don't peek inside the checkbooks and stuff like that, but definitely for an overall appeal from the race fan side of it and the insider side that we have. Talking to as many people as we do, sounds like it was a home run. So
yeah, and I mean, for Chisholm to win there, and I mean, Jake O'Neill, I mean, your heart breaks for that dude. I mean, it's like, God, it's like, Chisholm led one lap, and it was the $50,000 lap. I mean, the most expensive lap that he's ever, gained, that he's ever run right there, and he wins that. And I liked after the fact that when they went in, our man Colin went in and talked to the top 4 or 5, whatever it was, that they really expressed, the drivers really express their appreciation that the race was put on. And that's where, because it really is. I mean, for the track and the promoter to put one of these things on, man, I would dare to say, and I'm going out on a limb right here, I would say the promoting team and the track probably lost out. But I mean, it looked really good. If the track was profitable, if the promoter was profitable, that's even better. But the product on the racetrack, you cannot beat what you saw this weekend.
No, I mean, I think it was great from a dirt track perspective. There hasn't been this much hype for a race in Central Texas since the original Big Shot.
Absolutely.
Was that 2001, I think, was the original Big Shot. So 3 years ago. Math is not my specialty this evening. But I mean, when you had the best of the best show up for a big time, big money purse in your own backyard, it put on a hell of a show. The race, the Big Shot was a great race because we got to see them coming from all over the country. And same thing with this Mod Wars. It ended up having, one hell of a turnout from all over the country, and guys were doing good. So it's I mean, that's what you want to see. You want to see the racetracks do well. You want to see a good show, because if that was a shit show, I mean, that makes the Heart of Texas look bad. That makes racing in Texas look bad. So the fact that it was successful and competitive as it was without a whole lot of controversy, I think that's pretty bodes fairly well for hot for 2025 and racing the perception of racing in Texas for 2025.
Yeah, it's always been a thing where I've said with Heart of Texas Speedway, to where I think there's a lot of folks around the country that when I've traveled, where they ask about Heart of Texas Speedway because they know that I've done some races there, and it's like, tell me about Heart of Texas Speedway, because they know about the history about it. I mean, everyone that's come out of there, and I know that this wasn't we had Selby and Mike on here last week, and this wasn't a Heart of Texas weekly event or anything like that. But I think what this really did is, depending on how in front of people this thing really got, which I think that it seems like from folks that I've talked to around the country, there were people honed into this. And this is where, I think the big winner of this could be Heart of Texas Speedway, because you go back and you look at it, and when you go back and watch, from night one all the way to the finale right there, the track was great. You didn't see a lot of dust. You didn't see all these different things. You saw multiple grooves. As they would pan out, you would get to see the catwalk, and you got to see the stands and the pits and all of that. And with a lot of great tracks that we have around here, I think Heart of Texas Speedway may win out on this, Bobby, and it may not be the last big event that you get to see there, because, as we've talked about a lot, and even with Selby and Mike, is Heart of Texas is able to put events like this on because they've got their own track ownership. I mean, they control everything. They're very much in control. So may not be the last big one we see there at Hot.
I mean, this could have the same effect on Heart of Texas as having the weekly series show up at Pensacola.
Yes, sir.
Obviously you have the Derby with all the coverage from, our friends over at Racing America over the years. Like, you have that allure of that racetrack with that big event, but they started showing the weekly shows. And people start paying attention to those, and you start, you make a connection with a driver, even though you're not necessarily there with a butt in the grandstands. If you're a butt in the seat in front of that product, whether it's behind the TV or behind the fence or in front of the fence or in front of the TV, in front of the fence, you're going to develop, a relationship with a particular driver. I like the way that guy drives. I liked his car. That car looks good. The paint job looks good. The wrap looks great. You're going to start to develop, different types as you would from a normal thing, as a normal relationship that you get with racing. So I think that had to, I just have to believe that the way that show could have the positive effect on Waco and having it, even more successful there. What, year 57 or whatever it's going to be there in 2025.
Yeah. I love that you said that, because I have said since the first time that I went back to Waco a few years back to actually work there, is, to me, when I get to Waco, it very much has the feel to me of Pensacola, in a couple of different ways. Number one, the facilities are top notch. You walk up in there, the aluminum seating, it's just one of those things. The pit area, all of that, it has that same feel. And then the Friday night thing, obviously. You have that, to where it's like there's lots of other things to do in Pensacola and in Belmead, but people seem to gravitate over to those racetracks on a Friday night, whatever the car count is. The other part of that is, it's the homegrown feel. The food, the beer, everything. I correlate those tracks in and of themselves the same way. It's like the concession thing. You might have a corn dog stand that's set up over there, random corn dog stand, or the Kona ice thing. They're very homey racetracks, both of them. So it's funny you mentioned that. I don't think I've ever told you that. It really does feel like that, because those two, yeah. Good call by you, my man. See, we've been doing this so long, you can read my mind, my friend.
Sometimes it's right there.
Every now and then. It's good stuff. Great conversation about all of that. Before we get out of here, NASCAR. I didn't see any of that race. I didn't set my lineup. I probably am not in the hunt any longer in the fantasy thing, Revved Up Fantasy League, because I still had the road course people in there, and I think I finished dead last.
I was going to text you to tell you to switch. I guess every time I text you, you're like, "Oh, I got it set up," and then the one time I don't text you, you don't set it up. So
I didn't even think about that. I had to get over there and do some stuff with the racetrack. So Never even gave it a thought. But anyway, regardless, that's
I
not
set mine in the driveway before I pulled out for Texana.
There you go. There you go. Smart man. I need to set a reminder. Kyle Larson wins there, and so
dominating fashion. Yeah.
Once again, dominating. So who's out, or so who? Truex, he didn't advance, right?
Truex is out. Harrison Burton's out. Brad Keselowski's out, and Ty Gibbs is out.
Oh damn! I thought Ty Gibbs would have moved on, but he was at the bottom of the barrel anyway. I think.
Now I think your bottom four are off the top of my head: Austin Cindric, Daniel Suarez. That's for sure. The bottom two. Briscoe's in there, and then somebody else I can't think. One of the surprise winners. God, I can't think of what it is. I could look it up, but that'd take too much time.
That's all right. Well, that'll probably be the next four out. Probably pretty cut and dry there on what's going to happen there. But yeah, everything that I saw from that race was just another,
Well, it's hard when the guy that wins leads 462 of 500 laps. I mean, that, I guess your battles for second, third through fifth was probably pretty good. I thought the Xfinity race there on Friday night had all kind of, I thought it was great just because it had all kind of carnage and interesting storylines and all of that. So,
yeah, absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, Doug, that money led there. I think it was second place 20,000.
I think it was 20,000.
Damn. Why didn't I ever get that in the street stocks? Man, that makes it worth racing right there. So NASCAR rolls on, Larson. And the funny thing is now that I'm starting to see where even some of the NASCAR fans that love Kyle Larson and, really appreciate his ability and everything that he does, to where it's like, man, tired of him winning. NASCAR sucks. The new fans that were Larson fans, it's like, okay, I'm tired of this shit. I don't know. I mean, this is a car thing. I'm sorry to tell you, and I don't want to beat up on the car. This is that's what's happening here. Get him back to the super speedway. Maybe that'll fire things up.
Yeah, Bowman is the fourth guy. I went and looked it up anyway.
Bowman. Yeah, he will be out too.
Cindric, Suarez, Bowman, and Briscoe are your bottom four right now.
He will be out. Yeah, those will be the next four out. What I was interested in today that I saw, IndyCar has charters. And I think with IndyCar, which, like I've said so many times, it frustrates me because that is such a great series. And they just can't seem to get their legs under them. I mean, it's been a tough struggle for them I'm talking about 40 years. I'm not just talking about since IRL and all that. But I think the charter thing is a good thing for IndyCar.
I think so.
I really do.
I mean, the perception of IndyCar has changed because, back, I remember I probably told this story before, back when I was in junior high or high school, went to Fiesta, Texas in San Antonio, the Six Flag Park outside of San Antonio.
Yeah.
And I did one of those little character drawings or whatever. And I said, put me in a race car. Here I am thinking he's going to put me in a street stock. He puts me in an Indy car.
Yeah.
And now you go to somebody and say, hey, put me in a race car. They're going to put you in a cup car or a stock car type of car. So I think that's been the mindset change over the course of mainstream motorsports coverage in North America over the course of the last 20 or so years. And that NASCAR loves it. You got to love that boom in the early 2000s. That helped. The economy crash in 2007 set everything back, not just NASCAR. But yeah, there for a while, that growth, that there was that Fox effect. Right, when you got all that new coverage, all those new things, the way they were doing stuff at Fox with the NASCAR coverage, Fox has a new property. They now have IndyCar all on Network Fox. None of them on FS1. All of them will be for Saturday or Sunday shows on Network Fox. So I'm interested to see if it'll have the same effect that the NASCAR stuff had back 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when Fox first took over that. So now it's just crazy that Fox Sports now has a Super Bowl, the Super Bowl of racing with the Daytona 500 and the greatest spectacle of motorsports, the Indianapolis 500, all on the same network in the same calendar year. That's pretty insane.
Yeah, it really is. And this is where I think that Fox can do a lot with this. Not that it affected NASCAR coverage because their portion of the season always was done before football. But I think this is where Fox can go in with IndyCar and really, because it was, I mean, like you're talking about right there, the enhancements in broadcasting and all that. I mean, look, those CBS races and all that, the Ken Squire and all that. I mean, that was all. I mean, that's in my mind of things that I will never forget. But the big move was when they went to Fox, everything radically changed. And I do think, I mean, I really do think. I mean, to me, I always think when it comes to IndyCar, I always think of IndyCar on ABC and ESPN. And I totally get that when it comes to dollars and cents and all that, that NBC was going to win that contract. But that the way that Fox aggressively chased this deal, and now with the charter thing coming in to where what do we have? I think there's 27.
25 or 27, and they capped it at 3 per team. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah. Where I think that this is maybe something where Fox is going to go in and maybe make a really good run at this. And on top of that, you know, I mean, how many people go on the Twitters and all these different places and want to bitch and complain about the coverage that Fox has for NASCAR? I happen to think it's okay. I mean, I don't. I like the NBC coverage, or USA or whatever, and you know, I enjoyed the other day on watching the Xfinity race on the CW, and it was like I saw this whole thing about. So what do people think about? So what about the CW? And I'm like, looked like an NBC broadcast to me.
It sure did.
It's the same shit. It's just on a different platform. But I think that this is where I would love to see Fox really say, okay, let's dive in and let's do this. IndyCar, man, I'd love to see them on more ovals. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest problems that they have is that they don't race on enough ovals to where the generic race fan is going to be, okay, is that like Formula One? They look alike. When they're nothing alike. They are absolutely nothing alike. But still, the perception is, well, it looks like Formula One. They're going this way.
Well, your NASCAR fans aren't watching the IndyCar races on the road courses. They're watching the IndyCar races on the ovals.
That's right.
And the oval races aren't, except for Indy, aren't really all that spectacular.
That's it. I mean, you think about this. I say it's a travesty that they don't come to Texas for 2 reasons. Number one, they race well there. And number 2, that's good for TMS. And they need all the help they can get. But the schedule is out and the ovals are what they're going to be. But maybe that'll change. Maybe that'll change as this contract continues to work itself out.
TV has a lot of say on where some of these races go. Don't fool you. Now, they don't always have the say when it comes to rain delays and some of that stuff, you know, to pull the plug early or whatever the case may be. But TV has a say on where some of these markets go or some of these tracks go or where the series go to different markets. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the markets that get the bigger races, look at TV ratings, like Bobby's saying. I mean, boom, there they are. You know, I know I'm talking about DFW doesn't have, I mean, if there is a racing market in the DFW area, it's NASCAR. But I'd love to see the IndyCars back here at COTA, but there's not an IndyCar market here. We barely have a NASCAR market. It's a Formula One market. There's no way around that. That's why they don't come back here.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised NASCAR's back again, but it's kind of like NASCAR needs COTA more than COTA needs NASCAR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Except for the first year. Like the first year, everybody knew it was going to be a monsoon, and that place was packed, and it was one hell of a party. Hopefully we get, with it being a little bit earlier in the season, you know, get a little buzz coming off the Daytona 500, and I think you'll be able to find a good way to have a pretty decent crowd. I mean, test it. Why not? I mean, just see what that kind of crowd would do that early in the season. So, you know, I mean, it's the week before spring break. Not great timing, but I mean,
what is it? March
2nd and 3rd.
Well, I'll tell you, because I was talking to someone today. So I think this is where Austin could really do something well here, because that is also the same weekend as the Travis County Rodeo, as Austin Rodeo. So that could be something to where they could tie in with that and maybe, you know, get a little bit of run off of that. I think it's a good move in the sense that if you get a weather race, I mean, here in Austin, you're more apt to be able to race in the rain. I don't know what that does to the crowd, but that will keep people on TV, you know, watching on Fox. I mean, that's going to keep them engaged, because you're not sitting there watching driver interviews and all the other shit that happens during rain delays. So that could be a good win right there. I do like the way they moved that date around. I think that's a good time. And for Austin, I think that's a really good time for the Austin market, because you got Texas baseball going on, but Texas baseball is huge around here, but it's not Texas football. And I think that that'll bode well having it earlier in the year without a golf tournament happening down the road than later.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to try it. I mean, I'm not going to give them any grief for trying to try it to see what they can do. I mean, the goal is to get the highest ratings on TV and the most asses in the seats. So whatever you got to do to try to do that, I'm all for it.
That's the whole thing. And whether you're NASCAR or COTA or SMI, actually SMI probably, because they're the one footing the bill for this, you just want to get people there. And that's and I think that it affords them a better opportunity to do that earlier in the year. Taking a look here, I think we have everything covered. I think we got it all in. And here we go to another weekend, championship weekend happening at the South Texas Race Ranch. We talked about CBS coming up with that big finale in the Stems. Be checking out social media. I think that Stems one, man, that could be a classic happening there at the big track.
It's got a chance to be really, really good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. A big congratulations once again to everyone involved with Mod Wars out there at Heart of Texas Speedway. Really big deal there. Jim Chisholm, $50,000 leads that last lap and is able to take that one home. A big thanks to our man, Logan Boyette, who is the Faith Chapel Outlaw champion over at Five Flags Speedway. And, of course, our man, Bo Begno, Bo Knows Late Models, Bo Knows Championships, American Crate Late Model Series champion. Bobby, rest of the week for you, my man. What's going down, brother?
Just getting geared up for this weekend. Obviously, it's my mom's birthday, so I got to do something fun and nice for her. Then again, like I said, going to try to make it out to Cotton Bowl Speedway, try to take some new fans for sure, just to see what pops up. You know, you never know. Some of those people, they may just get addicted to it like they probably won't be addicted to it as much as we are. But you know, get them a chance to experience something else, and a little bit of an adrenaline rush. That's the best thing. That's the best way to sell the racetrack.
No doubt about it. Go one time and you will be hooked. Speaking of that, Bobby, I do want to kind of touch on something right quick. I thank you all for the messages and everything with the post that I did yesterday. That's been something that's been in the works for a while. I mean, it's certainly this show continues. Obviously, we're not going to stop now. The other stuff online will always continue. It's really easy to do this these days. It's just one of these things for me where I mean, I go back and I look at this year, and I've been constantly on the road every freaking weekend. I mean, it seems like, and like I said, I mean, I love going to hotels. I mean, I love staying in hotels and doing different things. But I think the main thing with that in that post yesterday was that I said my suitcase never gets unpacked. I get home and I'm just reloading, you know, for the next one. I'll do races. I absolutely will do races. I'm not, you know, going to disappear. I'm certainly not. Folks have asked about retiring. I'm not retiring. I'll still do stuff. It's just not going to be all the time because, Bobby, I don't think that folks realize this is a grind, man. This is a grind. If you're going to do it correctly, it's a grind. It really is.
Yeah, it's a lot to it because you got to remember names and track records and all kind of stuff. It's not as easy as just going in and flipping the switch and yapping all night long.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not dying. I'm not getting run out of my house. I'm not taking a sabbatical. I'm not wanted by the law. I mean, all the different things that you guys have asked, it's not that at all. And it's all me. That's what I'm choosing to do. Thing is, there are races to go this year. So we'll get that done. Next year, we'll still be around. It's just you're not going to see me near as often as you have lately. So anyway, good stuff. Man, great program. Thanks.
Oh, speaking of the show, those that didn't catch it last week might have caught it on Friday. 8 years strong for the show. We hit it on Friday. First show was September 20th, 2016. So I think when we say we are indeed the show that started it all, I don't think that is over speaking our boundaries. I think that's legit. You know, I think that's a legit statement because there for a while there was nobody doing it, and no disrespect to the other shows. Have at it, you know, grab the mic and have at it. Maybe one day you'll replace us, but you know, we've been doing this a hot minute, and that's a lot of shows. That's a lot of support, and you know, no time wasted. Now we right on track, ready for some more. Looking for year number 9.
That's right. Right on track right there. I mean, there's been a lot of shows that have come along and had a short run while we've been doing this, and then they're gone. And it's like, hey, whatever happened to whatever? And then I don't know, but there's a lot of them, and that was one of the things that our man John Molise posted yesterday on my post, where he was talking about kind of how everything started. I think he was talking more on the football aspect, but it was like, these things were kind of frowned upon in the past, and people kind of laughed, and it's like now. I mean, you look at it now. I mean, there wasn't a lot of demand for this, and now there's so much demand. I mean, we were kind of in our own little spot right there where we started doing this. And you go back and you look at, and this is where I talk about like with the race car drivers, Bobby, where it's like doing maintenance and doing all the different things on your race car. Go back and look at how we were doing this 6 or 7 years ago. It ain't near all the fancy shit that we have now. And I like to think that we've graduated this thing to a really good point, and I do consider us a benchmark. I mean, I don't care what anybody else says, and people can disagree all they want, but the whole thing is this show continues on, and I can tell you this, with a little bit of more, with a little free time that I'm going to have, it may get better. Holy shit, what's going to happen next?
What will we do with better?
What are we going to do? A female third member. No, I'm just kidding. Ooh, third member. That probably shouldn't be said with female. It's not a good thing to say. But anyway, we will do things and continue to do it. The show goes on. No doubt about it.
Yeah, so it's been a hell of a run, and the run is still continuing on. So
that's right, and it always will. It always will. And thank you all for being a part of this. Again, great show tonight. We'll be back next Monday, 6:30 p.m. You guys go enjoy your NFL. There's 2 games tonight. Enjoy that. Bobby and I will be back next Monday, same time, same place, 6:30 p.m. Central, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And if you can, we've talked about it a couple of different times. Go over, talked about it at the top of the show. Like that YouTube page, subscribe to it, and share that, because we really do, just like I said, for ease of access and to not have things get complicated. We're trying to get over to YouTube and X as much as possible. So if you can do that. All right, Bobby, have a great week, my man.
yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Gonna be busy, but maybe it'll be just in the first part of autumn, first part of fall. Racing season's almost over, minus some of these big shows and championship nights we got, and football's getting started, fixing to get hot and heavy. So it'll be one hell of a time of the year, just like always.
No doubt about it. We'll see you next Monday. He's Bobby. I'm Rodney. It is #Real Race Talk. It is the Revved Up Sports Show.